But people told us all kinds of secrets. They said you would share to verify them.
Yeah. Very cagey.
Not buying it.
Yeah.
You know, just in line with just the emotionality of the panel and the end of the season, we were talking at lunch that, I don't know how many of you have seen a Supernatural script, but the last page of every Supernatural script for now 14 plus seasons, the last thing it says on the page is "to be continued." ... And I turned to Andrew. I said, "You realize you're going to write this episode, and it's going to be the first Supernatural script ever that says the end." And we all just sort of sat there for a minute. And go,
What?
yeah, so it's odd.
With God as the ultimate bad guy now. In seasons 11, 12 in there, where he talked about he wanted to sacrifice himself in order to save humanity and save his creation, and if he died, the sun died, earth died, everything died. How can they possibly defeat him with those kinds of consequences laid out in canon?
They're going to have to be quite clever. Yes, and we bring that up. We don't want to walk that back at all. We have to. That's a workaround that has to be found if he is to be defeated, or if he is defeated. I know there are certain goals stopping him, but when he said all of that, a lot of the stuff that he said about protecting mankind and doing all this stuff, it's a tremendous period of adjustment for everybody to kind of realize that they've been set up. That a lot of this was not straight up. And Sam and Dean, and I think I touched on this in the panel, Sam and Dean were willing to accept a new perception of God as not the person who is always involved and always watching out for you and on your side, but somebody who is a step removed and kind of from the back seat and would step in case of emergency. And now they find out that thing that they clung to all these years, that wasn't the case. So there's a real period of adjustment, and that doesn't even take into account Castiel, who was a good soldier for thousands and thousands of years and always buying the party line, and then he finds out the party line was not true. So we devote chunks of the first number of episodes to everybody kind of readjusting to a new reality. And because we don't want to just pull the rug out and just go on about our business, because this is a huge thing. When your belief systems, the things that got you through the day are messed with, it's tough.
And of course, as the show's gone on for so long, obviously.
Yeah.
How does it become harder or easier to sustain it? Because you have to coming up with new things and keeping it moving, keeping the engine going.
Intellectually, you would think it has to be harder to sustain, and interestingly, it hasn't. Because, and sometimes it succeeds better than it doesn't, obviously. You guys will be the first to tell us. But it just does, because then when you think you've done your last werewolf, then somebody comes up with a sudden twist, sometimes by accident, and you're off into a whole new thing. It's like when we did the episode where Lucifer was possessing the president, and he was having sex with his mistress, and she got pregnant. And then, we thought, well, that's going to be a one-time thing. And then, but what if she chooses to keep the baby? Okay. And then what does that turn into? Whoa, that would be the most powerful Nephilim ever. So then that just suddenly, a story was born. So, and which survives now. So you do stumble upon these things sometimes that just keep you going.
Is there room in this final season for special episodes that are slightly out of the norm, or are you just powering towards the finale at this point?
Yeah, we've got such a big stake thing. We've got so much to deal with in trying to wrap up individual characters and threads that probably the big meta fun episode, the Scooby Natural episode, probably is not going to be part of the season. But you never know. I know a lot of times those episodes are this mid-season finale, and I know for sure that it's not. But that's not to say that it can't happen. It's just right now we feel kind of jam-packed.
Yeah. Are we going to have a chance to revisit some of the major arcs in the past? Looking at that sizzle reel today, reminded me of so many great stories, and so many saved lives. Are we going to be?
You will be reminded, because a lot of those characters are going to be, if there's a good reason to do it, a lot of those characters that seem beyond resurrecting may put in an appearance if they serve the story and have a really good reason to exist, if they touch the Winchesters emotionally, we're part of their lives, and it makes sense to do that. because I think part of the obligation of this season we feel really strongly is to honor the past of the show, because the great foundation that Eric laid and all that stuff that came before, not just move beyond that, but to honor it if it makes sense, but do it in ways that feel fresh, so it doesn't feel like a bunch of people walking in and making cameos, but actually serve the story and do something you haven't seen them do before.